Hello everyone and welcome to my craft room. I'm Leo from inkymemories.co.uk, an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator based in South Wales. And today on this Simple Saturday video, I'm going to be showing you a project using the ridiculously awesome stamp set. Now the card that we're going to be making is really sort of an any occasion card. You could send it as just a note. If you wanted to send some encouragement to someone, it would be really a card that you could use pretty much for any occasion. And like I said, we're going to be using this stamp set, the ridiculously awesome stamp set, which is from our new annual catalogue. And this can be found on page 90 in the catalogue. There we go. You can see it here, and then some ideas of how to use this stamp set as well. Now this stamp set was designed by one of our demonstrators within Stampin' Up! Once you reach the point of making 1 million in sales with the organisation, you get to take a trip to Stampin' Up's headquarters over in America, and you get to design your own stamp set. So you get to pick what goes into it. And this is the stamp set that this particular demonstrator put together. And this was done in conjunction with Sean Douglas, who is the husband of Stampin' Up! CEO Sarah Douglas. And he actually hand-lettered all of the sentiments and pieces in this stamp set. So like I said, we're going to be using this stamp set, and the other thing that we're going to be using with this is this gorgeous rainbow glimmer paper, which I absolutely adore. This is already my second pack of this. I've already gone through the first 2 sheets that I ordered, so as you can see I've been using this quite a bit. And this has a number of different colours in it. I'll show you the colour palette that is contained in here. So we have in the paper Bermuda Bay, Magenta Madness, Mango Melody, Granny Apple Green, and Blackberry Bliss, and they are the sort of major colours in the paper, but as you can see there are other gradients of colours also in here, so you could pretty much pull any colour from the Stampin' Up! Family in and use it in conjunction with this paper. I think it is really awesome. Okay, as this is a Simple Saturday project, I have done all of the cutting already. So I'm just going to pull in the pieces that we need for our project today and go through them with you. So we have a card base in Whisper White. Now this is actually our thick Whisper White cardstock. It is a slightly higher thickness of card. It's great for making card bases and also for 3D projects if you're making boxes or bags, things like that. It's very good for that. I have a Whisper White envelope. I have a small piece of Whisper White here, which is 9 centimetres by 5 centimetres. And so I should just go through the dimensions for the card base. So this is just a standard half sheet of A4 cardstock. So this is 14.85 centimetres. This way it's 21 centimetres across, which is the full width of a sheet of A4, and I've scored it down the middle, so at 10.5. And the last thing I have then are the pieces of the glimmer paper. Now what I've done with this, I have simply cut a strip right across from all the colours. So as you can see, right the way across here. Because this is a 12 by 12 or 12 inch by 12 inch sheet of paper, I'm actually working this in inches. It's just easier for my brain to work this out. So this strip is 1 inch thick, and then I've cut it into 4 equal pieces, so they're all 3 inches long. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do to start our card is to fold and burnish the score line in our card base, and as always I'm going to be using the bone folder for this. This just helps to reinforce the score. It helps to nicely crease the cardstock so it stays as a card. It doesn't try and pop itself back open fully. And then we're going to actually stick our pieces of glimmer paper to the base of the card. I'm actually just going to do that one more time. There we go, that's better. I'm going to be using Tombow liquid glue for this. As I've said in a couple of my previous videos, using the liquid glue allows you to sort of wiggle the cardstock as you put the 2 pieces together. So in case you don't position it quite right first time, it gives you that little bit of extra time. But before I start gluing, I'm actually going to lay out the pieces onto my card base to decide how I want them to go. So I'm going to arrange them. I'm not doing them sort of straight or all lined up or anything like that. I am using a sort of slightly, almost dare I say it, higgledy-piggledy kind of layout on here. I just want to space them out so they're nice and even. And I think I'm pretty happy with that. So I'm going to take my liquid glue and just start gluing these into place. So what I'm going to do is run a small amount of glue across the back. You don't need a lot of glue in order to get a good bond. Pop the pieces into place, and like I said, if you need to move it slightly once you've put it down, you have time before the glue bonds with the layers to do so. And I'll do the same for all of these pieces of paper. The colour palette in this paper means you could really use this card for anyone. You know, if you needed to send this to a friend or a family member, it would work for masculine and feminine cards. It's sort of really suitable for any type of card that you might need. You could use it for birthday cards. Pretty much anything would work with this, and the sentiments in the stamp set as well are very versatile. Okay, there we go, I'm happy with that. So the next thing I'm going to do is actually to stamp the sentiment, and this is onto the small piece of cardstock. So like I said, this is 9 by 5. And I've got the stamp that I'm going to be using today already mounted onto my clear block. This is a clear block E. And I'm going to be using the Make Today Ridiculously Awesome stamp. And I'm going to be using Bermuda Bay ink for this one. Now, as I said, with the colour palette as it is, and with so many colours being represented in that rainbow glimmer paper, you could use any of the colours in that paper, or even the ones sort of in between the main listed colours if you wanted to change up the sentiment and the feel and look of this card. So with this, I'm just going to very lightly tap the stamp onto my ink pad just to get a nice even coverage of ink all the way over. Just like so. I'm going to line up my piece of card onto my grid paper just so I know that that is nice and straight. And then taking my stamp over the cardstock, I'm going to line it up and then press straight down. Give it a nice even pressure all the way over and then lift it up. Now the cardstock has stuck, it's not unusual for that to happen. I couldn't grab an edge, so I'm just going to very carefully pull that straight off. And there is our stamped sentiment. And while I have the ink open, as I'm sure if you've seen any of my other videos on my channel, I have a rule where we don't have any naked envelopes in my craft room. So I have one of these small elements from the stamp sets. This is just the star stamp that I've already mounted onto a block. As you can see here, there's also a heart and this sort of flourish piece that works really nicely around this loopy S as well. I'm going to use the star today. I'm going to do exactly the same. I'm just going to stamp it a couple of times on my envelope. So just taking the stamp to the ink and lightly tapping that onto the ink pad until I have a nice even coverage. I'm going to stamp this a couple of times without re-inking my stamp. And this gives you from one shade of ink multiple different tones, and I really like how this looks. And I'm going to repeat this again down the other side. I'm just turning the stamp each time I stamp it, just to give it a different look. Okay, I'm happy with that. And the design of this card, I actually cased from another demonstrator. When I get a new stamp set, I like to go to resources like Pinterest or even just a Google search, type in the stamp set name and start to see how other people have used it sometimes, see what kind of ideas people have had. And this particular card, like I said, it is cased from one of my colleagues, the irishscrapper.com. I absolutely loved what she had done with the card, and I kind of took the basic inspiration from what she had done and made it my own for this project. So with the sentiment piece then, I'm just going to pop some dimensionals onto the back of this so we can put it onto the card. Not too many, we don't need a huge number of these. And I'm just making sure that the dimensionals are not too close to the edge of the cardstock so they don't show through on the finished product. I'll just take the backs off these. I'm going to line the sentiment up on the front, so I want to make sure that it is centered on my card. There we go, I'm happy with that. And there is our finished card. Like I said, this is definitely a Simple Saturday project, but as you can see, it is a really fun, bright card. It would be an awesome card to send to someone, maybe if they have something coming up like an exam, you sort of want to send them some positivity and encouragement. Now, with this being such a simple card, I looked at this and I thought maybe there was a way that we could step this up. Stepping up cards is a way of taking a simple design and adding to it to make the card a bit different. So I've done this a couple of different times. I'm going to show you some of the other ways that you could use this same card design and layout and make it a little bit different. So the next version of the card that I made is this one. Now, as you can see, the basic layout is the same sentiment, the same glimmer paper and card base, and I've just added a couple of different elements to this. So the first thing that I've added is these enamel shapes, and these are from the Playing with Patterns suite, which you can find on page 100 in the annual catalogue. Nice colours in this, they go really nicely with the glimmer paper, and I've just added 3 of those around the card. And as you can see, I have stamped in all 5 of the colours that I showed you. I'm just going to very quickly show you how I did that using my stamp block. So first of all, I'm just going to clean off the ink that I have on here. I'm going to use my Simply Chamois to do that, nice and simple. Just going to take my stamp and wipe off the ink. There we go. So if I pull in the other ink pads that I showed you earlier, all the different colours that we have, just pop that to one side. Okay, and for this I'm going to be using sponge daubers, which are these. These are just little sponges on a plastic mount that you can just pop onto the end of your finger. I'm going to use a different one for each colour, just so I don't cross-contaminate my ink pads as I'm using them. So I'm going to start with the darkest colour, which is Blackberry Bliss, and using my sponge dauber, I'm just going to press this into the surface of the ink pad. Nice and firmly, you want to get a good amount of ink onto your sponge. And then I'm going to use my sponge dauber to colour my stamp. I'm going to do this in sort of diagonal lines across the stamp like so. Just build that colour up on there. And then I'm going to go with the Magenta Madness. I'm going to do the same again, taking my sponge dauber, getting a good amount of ink on the end. And then I'm actually going to slightly overlap this with the Blackberry Bliss ink that I did before. So it sort of blends. And then I'm going to do the same with Mango Melody. Just like so. And then again with Granny Apple Green. And then the last colour, the one that we used for the original card, is Bermuda Bay. And I'll just finish that off, like so. And then in order to make sure that the ink is still nicely wet on the surface of the stamp, I'm just going to huff onto it. The moisture in your breath just reactivates the ink and makes sure that it is still nice and wet for you to stamp. So you can see all of the colours going across the stamp there. And if I just stamp this straight down onto my grid paper, you can see we now have a rainbow stamp. So I did one more step up version of this card. using very similar elements from before and just adding a couple of extra things in. So this time I actually die cut the sentiment, and this is using the nested sort of tag parts that come in the Hippo and Friends die set, and I then mounted that onto a piece of basic black. The background, I used an embossing folder, so just the hammered metal embossing folder from the current catalogue, just to give it a bit more texture in the background. And I added a piece of ribbon behind the sentiment, and this is from the Playing with Patterns ribbon combo pack, and I've just used this gorgeous ribbon. This is quite a stiff ribbon. It's really good for using in sort of a structural sort of loop like this, and it really works nicely with this card. So as you can see, from the same simple card design and basic elements, you can make 3 very different looking cards, starting with a simple one, a slightly stepped up one, and then a sort of more complex version. And that is my Simple Saturday project for you today. I really hope you have enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions or comments on this project or any Stampin' Up products, please do pop them into the comment section below. I would be happy to help. All of the products that I've used today will be listed in the description box below, so you can buy them directly through my Stampin' Up store. If you don't currently have a Stampin' Up demonstrator and you are based in the UK and you'd like a copy of our current catalogues, use the link below in the description on my website. It will take you straight to a form where you can request a catalogue, and I will get those into the mail to you straight away. If you have enjoyed this product, I would be really grateful if you would drop this video a like, and if you'd like to see more content from me, subscribe to my channel and you'll be then notified whenever I post a new video. Thank you again for watching. I'll see you next time.